Right, John, you knew Paul Sykes extremely well, but I'm not interested in the villainy side. As a boxer, when was I know you were on the shows with him as an amateur and all that, because there's about 8 years between you. So was that when you first heard of Paul?
Oh no, I didn't know him then. He was only he would be a junior then, because I was a senior. So he was like, there was a big difference in our ages, obviously, because I'm 81 now.
Yeah, Paul would have been 74.
Yeah, which is a lot in the amateur days when 18's a senior, 16's an intermediate, and then it's junior. So Paul would be, but obviously it is a vast experience. He wasn't a flyer, he just come up type thing. He served his apprenticeship.
Yeah, and obviously you spent many years around him, John, in gyms. You've seen him spar and all that. What would you say Paul Sykes' style was then as a fighter? He was a boxer fighter. He wasn't a complete fighter like Boy Green, Marciano, or any of those. But he was an aggressive fighter. But he had a good left hand, and he had a good chin, and he probably lacked a devastating punch. I know he hurt that American, but in true terms, he wasn't devastating. But he wasn't. People didn't want to spar with him because it wasn't a walk in the park. You know what I mean? You were gonna. I had a couple of heavyweights who were not that keen on sparring with him because he took it seriously. He was a dedicated boxer. He really was. He trained. He had no trouble with him. Training, he'd go anywhere to spar with anyone. I took him up to Newcastle to spar with George Scott. George Scott didn't turn up. I would have thought he would be a hard man to fight. I think age was his problem. Yeah. And I think with Gardner, he was winning the early rounds. You know what I mean? Yeah. He just tired. Yeah. Rather. You've seen it happen rather quickly when it did happen, Yeah. But I've seen that with lots of fighters. Yeah. Your old guy who you're very familiar with, Neil Malpass, he said to me, offensively, Paul Sykes was world class. Would you agree with that? Like, going forward and just couldn't take it? Yeah. He was, and Malpass's beat him with the best, Yeah, I was looking at Malpass's record. Scudder in South Africa. The fellow who fought Clay, European champion in Spain. But he knocked Danny McAlinden out, didn't he? Yeah, and he also knocked Fury's dad out. That's right. Yeah, I mean, you were. He had a magnificent knockout record. Yeah. Now he could punch. Yeah. I mean, he was that type of build for a heavyweight, a bit like Hearns. He was tall, and when he threw that right hand, it was devastating. Yeah. I mean, his record, they were after him in London and everywhere early on. And then he got in with that heavyweight that was horrible. Tom Keeley. Yeah, no one should have ever fought. Yeah, you said he'd made Muhammad Ali look bad, stand on your feet and all that. He did. He was terrible. Yeah. He was just an awkward fighter, But Paul, you put that way down in any show, but he got your rounds out of him. There was no to have him on a show would have been always a good, entertaining fighter. And he was a ticket seller's dream, wasn't he? He lacked
devastating punches.
Yeah.
But what he did throw were all hard, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he wasn't a knockout expert.
Yeah. I mean, can I ask you, right, so if he'd never spent all his best years behind bars, how far do you think he could have went? Because me and you had a chat before, John, and you said, you know what, I think if he'd have really knuckled down, he could have been maybe a European champion. Do you think you stand by that?
Yeah, of course I would. Bloody hell. Seen some bad European champions, I'll tell you now. But I mean, he was equally as good as Richard Dunn and all them.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
If not more entertaining.
Yeah.
And McAlinden, because there was, to be honest, if he'd been out of Nick, we had a very poor heavyweights with.
Yeah, you had that period, didn't you? Like 75.
Yeah, they were really poor. I mean, you had Cooper, Brian London, Richards, Erskine were all good.
Yeah.
And you even had Jim Cooper, Henry's brother. He'd have beat all them. Then the next generation was very poor, and I think he'd have beat all of them.
So just basically his best years, because he come out in 73 and he was out for 9 months, sparred with Fraser, the Thomas Becker gym, but I think that would have been great, the chance for him to turn pro, but obviously he was knocked back. He done an arm robbery, and then you and Tommy Miller collaborated to but I mean, Paul Sykes as a fighter, he didn't, you know, I was talking to John Conte and he said, do you know what though, Jamie, and he give the pros a go, and in 2 years, right, what you've got to remember is he come out, went pro for them 2 years, got a British and Commonwealth level, but he'd been on a diet for the last 13 years, right, barring 9 months of bread and water. It is quite remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah. I wouldn't go along with the bread and water, I'll tell you why.
Go on.
He was very interested in his food.
Yeah.
He did have a bit of pull in prison. He was getting plenty of meat when he was also he was on all these Complan food, you know. He studied vitamins and everything, did. You know, he was an educated athlete, was Paul.
Yeah, because we all know, John, about him drinking and smoking later on, but back in the day I spoke to an ex-inmate and he said, you know something, in 1977 when I was on Durham prison with him, he said he wouldn't let the whole wing smoke. Is that right? Because he was scared of it, like
I could quite believe it, yeah. No, he was definitely to bed at the right time and everything, and up and running. You know, he would run he would run from Redcar right along the beach with my other 2 heavyweights, right? He would get to the ship at Saltbed, you know, the one
I know,
at the bottom, and there's a hill there behind the morgue, right?
Yeah.
He would then do 10 times up and down there, like 10 rounds, you know what I mean? Now, my other heavyweights couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Now, even though he was old, he had that fitness.
Yeah.
He was a lot older than them.
Yeah.
But it's all right being fit, but match fit is a different thing.
Yeah.
And when you get old, you get knit as well.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
When you're just running. But so you can look greatly fit. But old men don't take punishment as well.
Yeah. And
the body-wise, body punches and things like that tire them.
Yeah.
Your body's old. Even though your muscles look good and everything, your body's old. It hasn't got the recuperating power, you know, of when you hit. I mean, it happens to footballers, everything. It's not all sportsmen. They reach an age where they're not recuperating as easy, you know.
Yeah, I mean, me and you have chatted many times, and obviously the bookies had Sykes 8-13, John or Gardner 7-4, 6-4, and it was basically Sykes early or Gardner late, which is what went on. But I think that was basically Gardner was 7 years younger than him, and time just caught up with him, didn't it? Can I ask you, what did Paul tell you then? Because you said to me, because all this conspiracy of he was given oxygen before the fight, and he put money on him, and he threw it. He just said to you, I shot my bolt, didn't he?
Yes, that's what he done. And he there was no fix about it or anything. And Gardner was what you call a plodder.
Yeah.
And a working plodder. And he, for all it looks like Paul was wearing Gardner down, he wasn't.
Yeah.
It was a bit like Clay with Foreman. Paul punched himself out.
Yeah.
Paul thought he was going to knock him out, and he thought if he aggressed him, and he was hitting him with a lot of good punches early on if you watch the fight.
Yeah.
And then round by round he got slower.
Yeah.
And what happened to Gardner, he just plodded on at the same speed and was still as fit at the end as he was in the beginning.
Yeah.
It was age, and being locked up, it doesn't matter how you put it down, being locked up in a cell, doing weights, no real running in Nick, and no rings to sparring, and just hitting bags and that is not, it's not like you've been in the gym with fighters all the time.
Yeah. And don't forget, John, that fight was for 15 rounds, so Sykes turned his back in the 6th. There was no way he was going another 9 after that, was there?
Yeah, he was not going to go. He was never going to go 15 rounds.
But just to finish off, just to finish off, it was always a pleasure to have in your gym, and a good trainer, sparred with Maxie Smith and all that, and I think you described him as the funniest man you ever met. But as a boxer, we've chatted and that, and hopefully we can do your book next year when the world gets back to normal. But you really rated him as a boxer, though, didn't you? And you've seen some crap and all that.
Of course I did. You've got to rate him. You've got to rate anyone who, first of all, can draw the crowds in.
Yeah.
Second of all, when he gets in the ring, entertains. You weren't going to get a fella clinching and holding and hanging on.
Yeah.
You weren't going to get anything like that. He went to fight. He wasn't at all. He took no shortcuts. You know what I mean? He did go to fight. And when you get someone like that as a promoter, it's gold dust, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, John. Well, yeah.